G'day guys. Going to have a bit of a talk about this GPZ-8000, and this is basically logical speculation. Okay, it's not from the horse's mouth. It is looking at the whole picture and trying to work out how this newish detector operates. Now, the main part of it, in my opinion, is the coil. And I was going to try and simplify this as much as possible, because I know that if I go technical, people won't listen, they won't watch, they won't understand. Okay, the biggest enemy to metal detectors, be it pulse induction, more so pulse induction than most other technologies, is the ground minerals. Now, what they've done is they've put the transmit coil above the receive coil. That's why this coil has height. And I'd say there would be a geometrical offset than how normal coils are done in the winding. They could be cone shaped in and or out, which will give less ground coupling. But there's trade-offs with all this stuff. As soon as you do any sort of flat winding, square winding, anything more vertical than what it is horizontal, anything like that, there's always trade-offs. But what they're trying to do, in my opinion, is they're exciting, how am I going to put this simply? I'm going to put it as simple as I can. I'm just trying to think. Okay, when you have a normal coil, start off with a normal coil, the transmit winding is really close to the ground, very, very close to all the minerals. And that basically supercharges the top layer of the ground minerals under the coil, and you get a slow decay. They're giving back, as soon as you turn off the transmitter, they're giving back a lot of energy. And the receive coil, is getting swamped with all this ground noise as well. It's all in the same plane. So it's like it's a lateral system. And by putting the transmit coil above, the instantaneous energy from that coil doesn't excite the ground as much, a lot lesser. The further it is away, the less charging of the ground. But when you're looking at a detector and you think of it like this, say you have targets so far down, does an extra 2 inches of transmitter height really affect this target? It's going to have an effect on smaller gold for sure, but it's all to do with the geometry of this winding. So having the transmit coil above, you're getting less charge in the top layer, exciting all those paramagnetic particles, just things that hold on to the magnetic pulse and then give it back up. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, there's a little bit of a trade-off, but there's a benefit. Possibly, and I don't see, this is speculation. Possibly they're putting more energy into the coil. I've noticed the coil wire itself is very thin. That could indicate they're running a greater voltage pulse into the coil. Is that going to really do much? You double the power. you only get 3 decibels more, minus losses. It's not really much, but you know, maybe there's something like that going on. I don't know, right? I haven't got my hands on one. I can't measure one. I'm just speculating how it works from what I've seen. So we know for one thing that they're exciting the ground layers less. They got the receive coil, I would say, closer to the ground. It may be up a little bit. I don't know because I haven't put my hands on it. I haven't looked at it. I haven't pulled one apart. Not that I'm going to, because it's ridiculous to do that. Yeah, I think there's someone might have put up an X-ray somewhere on one of the forums of the coil. I haven't checked it yet. I just get these messages from people telling me this, that, and the other. So, like I say, it's a lot of it's speculation. But what are we going to lose by putting the transmit coil up higher? Actually, probably there's a net gain overall in signal to noise ratio and the separation of signal to ground noise. There is probably a benefit. But here is the interesting thing with this toroidal coil technology. We'll call it a toroidal. In my opinion, it probably is something of that nature. Don't know for sure. I haven't laid eyes on it. But what I'm thinking of, and this makes sense, if you are in a high mineral environment, and as some people have done, they lift their coil off the ground so it can ground balance and get rid of all that thing. But this opens up a whole new way of doing things for normal detectors, doesn't it? Coil manufacturers. What if in your normal coil configurations, because all the old mine labs, within reason, run or capable of running double D coil. So if it's capable of running a double D coil, it's capable of running a concentric coil, and it's also capable of running a coil with the transmit coil here and the receive coil there. And configuration can go any which way, how you want to do it. There's a lot of electromagnetic modeling software out there. You can check out all the couplings, how it all works just by modeling different sizes, shapes, offsets, all sorts. And you could probably make a coil that works much the same overall. The only thing you cannot do at the moment is increase the power output. Well, you can, but you would only want to do that if you're offsetting your transmit coil to your receive coil. So there's a net benefit to be had in very, very, very hot ground by doing this. Look, in all fairness, you can make an afterburner for a normal detector. You know, you can amplify it and get some more grunt out of it, but I don't think that's the actual thing you want to do. If anything, you probably want to lower the voltage on the transmit pulses to excite the ground less. Even halving the transmit voltage is going to have a massive effect on ground mineralization charging, right? And it's not going to have much of an effect on targets, on gold targets. It'll have a little bit of effect, but there'll be a net overall gain in getting rid of the ground signal. So you can sample earlier and things of this nature, which then makes the small targets pop up. So you've got a geometric improvement in signal to noise ratio, not really doing anything in the electronics, but doing it just by coil spacing and getting rid of that ground signal, or trying to get rid of it, or removing a lot of it. So that's my line of thinking. You could also do your modeling and have more or less. Now you got to think about this sort of stuff, right? You got to remember, just think of an old GP or GPX anything, not the 6000, but any of the earlier models, which are going to get very, very rare soon. But if the coil manufacturers or you yourself want to experiment, of course, you must remember that on the coil plug of all these detectors, and don't forget this is important, you have one connector that you can use for your transmit winding, right? And you have two separate receive channels, okay? So what you could do is you could make a balanced coil setup where you look at the amount of signal on one receive channel through one coil, say it's this big, or whatever you want to make it. And on the other receive channel, you make one this big. And then you can have your transmit coil out here, or better still, you put your transmit coil here, you put a small receive coil here, and where the transmit coil is, you put another receive coil there. And if you actually structured the coupling, the balance of the two receive coils, maybe altering the turns, you can actually do it by altering the height. You can actually put the larger one of the concentrics further up, closer to like the transmit coil. So you want to get the target ground balancing something. You don't want it like this on different sort of targets. You want to get it close as you can and combine the input signals so you get like an addition effect on target signals. And experimentation is the nature of the game here. You could do it. You could get two coils. You could try everything. You could put on your oscilloscope, use a separate transmit coil, and try and balance those receive coils in amplitude, and just sum it in the detector. It'll give a really, really good improvement in detectability of targets. So it's all these things you can do. We've known for a long time that removing the receive coil away from the transmit coil in hot ground makes a quieter detector, such as just happen to have the double D there. You know, you transmit all the ground excitement is over here. You do have some coupling here. You do try and run this little idler type winding off here, annulling winding, and try and null the response between this coil, the coupling to this coil, but the ground still couples. So, you know, why not get a double D like so and change the geometry? And because I said you've got two receive channels, right? There and there, and combine. If you actually made the transmit coil, you could make it a rectangular coil, and you really don't want to have sharp edges. You want to radius the edges, so it's more like this here, right? But a rectangular coil, and you could put two receive coils, and having the two receive coils compared to a double D, there is an instantaneous 3 decibels of signal gain when you're over a target. So coil manufacturers make triple coils. Easy, not hard, basic. And you know, that's starting to, it's not the same thing, but it's starting to look exactly like the 7000 coil, more or less, how that works, which I happen to have one here. Get rid of that. Come here. This is an X coil, okay? That whatever it is, Russian, Bulgarian, or I think it's Russian, something like that, but they move around. As you can see here, that's made for a 7000. The big chunky coil in the middle is your transmitter coil, right? These detectors work on a completely different operating, the way it operates, okay, than a normal older 5000, 45, even going back to GP Extremes. They're all different. So this one here, the coil here, basically it's driven by something like a half bridge, H bridge circuit, and it flips a phase. It transmits north south, so it actually polarizes that way, then that way, that way, then that way. One coil. The way these things are phased, I think they're wound in series, and one's out of phase to the other. Like I say, just my opinion, because this one, well, when I got it, it was probably a bit like this. It yeah, was changed a little bit. The thing too with these sort of coils, anything that close to the ground, any transmit coil that's close to the ground, all these wire joins. This is one thing to remember, guys. You can also do this with your normal detector coils. These big wire joins here cause issues. They re-radiate. They even talk to the ground and re-radiate, intercept signals from the ground. And that's why when you look at them, they all had rather juicy sized ferrites over all these, so that it doesn't react with the ground. And yeah, but there's other ways of doing it. But anyway, you could get all your soldered joints. I'll tell you what you could do. Now, I don't know if people really want to do this, but where you have all your solder joints and so forth, you could just twist the wires like a transmission line and have a little thing up here. And you could do all your joins up here, away from the winding and away from the ground, right? That would be a smart thing to do rather than try and do it here. All you need to do is just have a little dome come off your coil, a little dome off here, and have all your wires, all your joins up here, away from the ground, away from the windings. So it's another way of doing it. You could probably sleeve it too if you wanted to. You don't, because I don't know if I got any of the ferrites, the ones in here. The ferrites in the X coils, by the way, are a different grade than what Minelab use in their coils, which I found interesting. So I won't go into too much about that and why it's done, but everyone can experiment and find out why it's done. But yeah, you don't want your joints anywhere near the ground, and you don't want it near any of the other coils. Especially these are pretty lumpy, bumpy things. There was also, I think on here there was a circuit board in there as well, and that was sleeved as well, which is a good idea. So the only thing you really want showing anywhere around this thing here is just Litz wire, basically. Even these resistors here, I mean, I've just put standard old, quarter watt resistors. On the circuit board, it did have surface mount resistors, just to tame the windings down, stop them ringing on the receive. Basically, they're just damping resistors across the coils. So, because you've got, even though the coils are probably in series, you have to damp each coil. You can't just put one resistor, which will do two, won't work. You got to dampen each coil. So, yeah, like I say, I haven't really mucked around. I've just changed the phase of the coils here so I can use it as a cancel coil, so I can do 7000s in the workshop. Comes in quite handy for that, but like I say, if you have a look, it's not set up for swinging over the goldfields. But that configuration there, you could lend, well, it's just two damn bloody receive coils. Make a coil up very similar to that. If you make the coils, the receive coils, in phase together, and you can add the signal in the detector, that's where you get your 3 dB gain increase, because you're going to another ear. Every time you double your ears, add 3 dB. But it's logarithmic scale. It doesn't work if you keep going like that. But if, for instance, you want to say make the coils in phase to each other, you can always, because if you bring in the two channels separately, you got the cancel switch in your detector. You can run one coil out of, flick one out of phase down. It's done in the detector. It's quite easy. Just flips it round, and you've got a cancel coil, but it'll cancel EMI, but you know, because one target's over here more than there. This is shallow ground. It'll work really well. You get rid of your EMI and you'll be able to really ping small targets. As you get away from the coil, because it's actually as the target gets away, you're starting to get an equalization of the signal from the target in both coils. And if it's cancelling, it'll cancel. Except if you offset the coil like that, you'll go over it and you'll get it. But there will be some cancellation. But it'll work good on small coils, small targets close to a small coil. It will just ping like crazy. So you could do that. You could put it into double D mode, and that'll take one channel out, and it'll just work on the transmit coil and just one of these. So, and the other one will just be sitting there. I don't know. You know, like it's not going to do anything. It's just going to sit there and be probably inert. So yeah, instead of running, that's what I'm saying. Instead of running them in a series fashion, you can run them into the two channels on the detector. So that's probably going to cause a lot of R&D is going to fire up like crazy. New designs are going to come out, and all the detector manufacturers will be making coils for the older detectors. So there's some startup coil manufacturers out there who you know, playing around with different things. Try that. You know, there might be a market and a half for it. I haven't got time for it, so I'm not going to do it. But you could do that. I've got better things to do than screw around making coils, because I've done it for years, and it's simple. There's a lot of stuff I didn't say about coils. A hell of a lot of stuff. We'll keep that for a rainy day, because I may do something with that in the future. I may do something with coils in the future, but you know, on a higher level than doing that. But you know, that sort of stuff doesn't really exist. I know someone put out those what they call them, triple O coils or something. It's probably a similar sort of thing, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't done right. Uh, and they disappeared. So if you really want to experiment, try making a spaced um, transmit receive coil, and give it a go. See what happens. Um, yeah, you know, yeah, you could also probably on the receive coil put in, if you want to, you could probably make it one of those flatsy sort of windings, what I hate. You know, one coil that does everything not properly, or not excels at nothing, but can get all within reason. I don't know. It's like a don't get me started. You're better off running two concentric coils, a small one and a bigger one, and sum them together. Do it in the older detectors. They're made for it. But people don't realise. I don't think that people don't realise they've got two separate receive channels, and you can phase flip one of them. Magic. So yeah, that's why it's got a 5-pin plug. You got main power transmit ground. Next wire is your transmit output. Right, separate. Don't join them, because they're joined in mono. They're all joined together, right? So it sums a mono coil. But no, get in there and run your own cable configuration. To do it properly, you need 3 cables. Okay, get 3. You can use a double D cable. You can do it, and you need another cable for your other line in, or get what I've done in the past. I actually got some proper LITS type cable for the older detectors, and I just put 3 together in a triangle, and I just put big heat shrink over it and made it one big cable. So then I've got the 2 channels for receive, which I can do whatever I want with different receive coils, and your separate transmit coil drive. Keep it all separate. Don't join it in the plug, because you're going to put everything into its independent input or output. So yeah, that's how you do it. So that will give great scope in improving the older designs. There's nothing wrong with them. They work fine. You know, I don't think anyone's going to say that, well, you know, if I say particular things, it'll get taken the wrong way. I don't mean it in the wrong way. But the early detectors, right, really think about it, how they work, how they compare to other brands and that, they beat them every time. And I've had hands-on with all this stuff and it beats it, no problem. Mine, that just beats it. Except we're going to see some new detectors come out from Nocta. Will they beat the 8000? Don't know, because they're so damn secretive. I won't say anything about it. They wanted to. We all know they were hanging back to see these things hit the market, and that. And in my opinion, the best way to lock a market up is to take pre-orders, commit. What do you do if the other one's better? I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying what if it is? You know, you're now locked in, sort of thing. I suppose, I don't know. I'm gonna laugh about that because you know, I'm not a marketeer. I just look at it at face value and think it's quite amusing how things are done. But anyway, that's how it is. What else was there? Was something else? Yeah, it was. Oh, there's a new detector. Another one. It's out of Turkey. I know. I saw. It's got a graphical screen on it. I'm pretty sure it's a pulse induction. I can't remember what the name of it was. Gold something or other. I think it had a really corny sounding name, but anyway, it may not. I don't know. I can't remember. I've seen a lot of stuff lately, but we'll make mention of it because there were some tests, and I've got to tell you about the Chinese detector test. Okay, this is hilarious. Okay, on Facebook, in the reels, because if you start looking at detectors and go in the reels, they'll start bringing up all this detector stuff from all these weird places in the world. And there was a Chinese detector, and they had this huge shaft, and it had cutouts in the shaft, and it had a woman with this detector standing on top near the edge, and it had a coil about that round, okay? And this other woman was way down the bottom, and I'm not joking. She's 10 meters or 30 feet away, and she's got something in her hand like a metal target, and it's complete utter BS. You just know it is, right? Because it just can't be done. And she's putting this thing in and out of this slot, this damn thing 10 meters or 30 feet up in the air with this woman on this detector, and it's going, woo, woo. I was going, oh my God. I mean, stop it. Just stop it. Oh, you know, that is very, very poor marketing, because it's complete and utter BS, right? It is. It's impossible. There's so many people flogging off detectors around the place. It's just what they say is complete BS. It can't do what they say. You know, like you see these stupid looking things with 3 prongs out the front and antennas off it, right? And all this stuff with a handle, and doesn't do anything. Please understand that. It does nothing. It, you know, we can all tell experience. Like, I went out for a guy flogging these things once, and I put a 6-ounce nugget next to the side of a tree in the grass. I pushed it in. No one knew it was there. I did. And he's got his freaking thing. He walked right past it. It did nothing, right? So when he kept walking, I went and grabbed it, and I stuck it in my pocket. I'm walking behind him. It doesn't swing around and point at me, right? And then I walk beside him, and this bloody thing's still doing this. And then I walked way up ahead of him, right? and then walk past me. It doesn't work. It's just impossible. There's no coupling. There's no mechanism for it to work. I feel sorry for everyone who's bought one of these LRL, long range locator. What a load of rubbish! Absolutely load of rubbish. Um, it don't work. I remember I pulled one apart years and years ago. I pulled one apart, right? And I'll tell you what was in it. It was made out of surplus modules, basically, right? And it had only a little bit of dedicated electronics just to make audio, and it had a UHF domestic TV tuner, a little silver box gadget, right? Um, in there, and it had wires going into it, but it didn't do anything. It had wires going to it. It had no power supplied, so nothing's going to power up the amplifiers. It's not going to do anything anyway. It's BS. Just trust me. I could go into a great detailed explanation, but why? Why? Just trust me. I've been doing radio forever, and it's there's nothing that is even slightly logical in the way they say it works. It will not work. Look, I'll tell you what, right? I guarantee you can get a bullion bar, right, this big, and you can walk up to it and pass it, and it will not point at that bullion bar. It will ignore it. It doesn't, there's no coupling, there's no mechanism. So if I've saved someone from wasting their money just then, great. Um, Things with coils seem to be the only things that work. Well, within reason, right? Um, there are there are other ways and means to detect targets. You can do it. There's ways of doing it thermally, actually, if you really want to, but it only works to a certain depth. Um, Basically, what happens? Ground heats up. Ground heats the nuggets in the ground to a particular depth, depending on the size of the nugget. The bigger the nugget, the bigger the thermal inertia. And over the day, what happens? The nugget gets hot, okay? And a big lump of metal is going to cool a lot slower than the ground. So what you do, you go out at night for thermal scanner and look for hot spots. Actually, you put your thermal scanner on a drone, and I don't know if you're allowed to do this, but might have to check into it, fly it at night. Um, and if you thermally scan massive areas of goldfield, and there's nuggets on the surface or near surface, you can, if you get your timing right for the heat, the die off, all the rest, which I have not studied, um, you probably can detect um, gold on surface doing that. It may also detect dense ironstone. Don't know. I haven't done it. I don't know what the thermal decay rate is on this stuff. Um, it should be different, and if it's different, you should be able to um, isolate what's metal and what's rock and dirt and everything else. It's just a thought on how to do it. So, guys, anybody who has drones and wants to, you could buy. I'll tell you what you can do. You can get one of those thermal imaging thermometers. Um, what you use for checking circuit boards. I don't. I just use my fingers, and I go, ouch, right? But anyway, some people use these thermal imaging cameras to detect faults on circuit boards, parts are getting too hot, and all the rest of it. But you may be able to adapt something of that nature. Maybe there's ones that are broader, have more of a spread. I don't know. I haven't checked all this stuff out, but I'm just doing a bit of lateral thinking. You could probably fly your drone over the ground, and it depends how sensitive it is. If it's going to measure zero point 0.1 degrees C or Fahrenheit, whatever it may be. You can detect differences on the surface, and all you really need to do then is just log the GPS coordinates, bang, 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 put it into what I would do. I'll tell you what I would do. I'd bang in all the GPS coordinates, log the whole lot, and then I'd shove it into an AI program and say, map this out as a continuous line of efficient detecting. So you're not going all over, that you just go and whatever's the most efficient trail to follow, and then detect all these points of interest to see, and keep the log, because if you're doing the same area again the next night, you don't want your thing picking up over there and it's the same target and go there for no reason. So, you could probably make a software program that does all this. There'll be something, you mention it, it happens usually. So I'm expecting to see coil manufacturers make new coils or different coils for the older detectors. I'm expecting that to happen now. And I'm expecting people to do thermal imaging on the ground, either with a drone or weather balloon or whatever. You need the resolution, so you got to be close to the ground. You got to use a drone or something. It would probably work, but I've never done it. I'll put that disclaimer in there. I've never done it. I don't know, but someone who's got a really nice big gold field, who lives out in the Pilbara, or somewhere around Kalgoorlie, Coolgardie, anywhere up Queensland, South Oz, anywhere big open flat ground, it would probably be a good way of trying to find the big ones. If there's a history of big ones, and maybe it's guys, quartz reefs came up through the ground, and a lot of the quartz reefs were capped with big gold. It's just a point of where the gold just went, oh, nowhere else to go, let's all stick together. And what happened over millions of years, or tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of years, I wasn't there, I don't know. Right? It all fell off, right? It could be just laying scattered on the ground, all this reef cap. Then again, it could have been buried by, old water flow and whatever, ground movements, all sorts of tectonic events and volcanoes and lava and meteorites. Who knows what's happened over millions of years? But there will be areas there where the gold's just on the surface. Like Tibooburra, a lot of gold just on the surface over there. You see it before you detect it, which is quite weird. But yeah, thermal imaging, yeah, I'd say it might be a way of going. And if you've got really, really nice ground, you could actually get a couple of drones and hang a dirty big long elliptical coil between the drones and fly over the ground and just scan it like a normal metal detector. Pre-program it up, across, down, across, up, and do this at night where you've got stuff all EMI, and every time it detects something, just logs the coordinates and go and look at it the next morning or something like that. But anyway, it's a lot of stuff there for experiments, and have a look at it. See what comes of it. I don't know. I just haven't got the time to do it. So if maybe you should get an experimenters group together, or go on Geotech, TECH, Geo as in Geo, GEOTECH number1.com, and go on there and maybe set up a subgroup. Someone who wants to do thermal imaging, someone who wants to do big coils, lightweight coils, very, very light frame to keep the thing stable, 2 or 3 drones all synced. You can use GPS to keep them synced together. You can sync them together, you can geo lock them, you can do a heap of stuff, and they won't move. Everything moves together as one, so it's not doing that. And you can fairly accurately scan a lot of ground using drones. It's not going to get you don't want to go and get caught up in salt bush and stuff like that. You have to make a fairly big coil. Maybe something like a bit of a multiple concentric type thing, where you have a big transmit coil and you have it under one, way down under one drone, one receive, or maybe you put your concentric receives between the two drones or something, and have one big transmit coil and two receive coils. You can run them in phase, or you don't have to. You can just log the data from each coil into your data logger, just stream it back and log all the data, and yeah, you can manipulate it any way you want and go and find all this lost, scattered gold that no one's ever bothered to walk over. You know, look, even here, right? When I was at Corondap the other day, where Ian Holland, I found out, Ian Holland. G'day, Ian. Haven't seen you for about 10 years, but anyway. Um, uh, that place there, when you read the history of it, as far as I can tell, there was a creek going through there, but it's been long ago buried. That's what they were mining. But there was also a quartz reef there, and it's just one. It's popped up like so. It probably goes down quite a long way. It's probably rich as all hell, but no one's gone down that far yet. But this thing, because the nuggets were 300 ounce, well, there was up to 300 ounces. In my thinking, this was all the quartz reef capping that's gone and fallen off. Okay, and in this situation, it all got buried. I think it was only 60 feet down or something, but anyway, whatever it was. Okay, and anyway, the miners found all this stuff, and I don't think there was any other quartz around. They didn't go down far enough on it, in my opinion. So that's one quartz reef in the middle of absolute tens and tens of miles, or tens of kilometers, whatever you want to call it. Now, why isn't there stuff like that out in the outback, all over the place? Thousands and thousands and thousands, sorry, millions of square kilometers or miles here in Australia, flat ground. No one's walked over the whole lot of it. And even aerial flyovers at the height they do, it's not going to pick up, relatively decent. Like, a nugget like that's not going to show. It's just not going to show. It's too far up. It's not going to. It's looking for ore bodies. It's not looking for individual lumps of gold that have fallen off reefs. 1 or 2, 3, 4 million years ago, or whatever's happened. So there are, and in my opinion, it's logical, because it's more logical than aliens in the universe, that there's big lumps of gold, or specimens sitting on the ground, just sitting there in the scattering of rocks and everything else, where it's flat for tens of kilometers, miles, whatever, around, and no one's ever transversed where this stuff is. They just haven't, because you can't do all the ground. It's impossible. It's just massive. But using a faster technology than a human, with a dinner plate on a stick, trying to cover hundreds of thousands of square kilometers or miles, whatever you want to work in, it's not going to happen. It will take you need to live 1 million years to do that, right? So why not we improve the technology for faster scanning? And I think using drones, you probably want a system of drones where what you will have a duplication of a drone system, where there's always one charging, ready to go, and the drone goes off, and when the batteries are getting low, it'll be on its comeback return phase, that it will land, and you go and charge that. But in the meantime, the next drone and coil assembly just picks up from where the other one was and continues the mission. So you always got one flying, one charging. Or if you have three, it'd be better with a set of three, you'd have one flying, one charging, and one cooling down. So you have a cool down after the fly, but then you have 4 of them, and you can have a cool down after the charging. So if you had 4 setups, I know it sounds expensive, but it would be a better system because you're not stressing the batteries. You always got one ready to go. You got the one that's just come home cooling down because you've dragged all that power out the batteries. The batteries will get hot. So you allow them to cool, and the one that's charged, you're allowing that to cool, and the one that comes in goes on, the cool down. Then it's just a system, bang, 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 fly, bang, 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 fly, or should I say it 4 times? But you know what I'm getting at. You sort of have a system going where it's basically you could probably just automate it, and sit back in your hammock and drink some beers and let the drones do all the work for you. Just go out and detect all the indicated GPS positioning for where the targets are indicated. But then again, the whole thing, you can adapt it. Say there is salt bush. Well, guess what? Drones have sensors. You could say, well, there's a salt bush there. How about we just go up to it and over it and down, and if we get another one, we do the same thing. If you can't get close enough to the ground, you maybe you log salt bushes, because or any type of vegetation, because vegetation usually needs a crack in the ground to start somehow to seed it, to get seeded, whatever way, and that could be a fracture in the ground, could be part of a fault system even, and may indicate that something's gone poke, like a little quartz stringer or something of that nature. Maybe you log everything and you just nail all the important stuff, the obvious stuff, and then you just check out all this secondary stuff later. Who knows? It may lead to something. But never leave a rock unturned, because you'll be leaving possibly leave gold in the ground. I nearly burped, held it in. Yeah. So anyway, probably knows that the hair is not fluffy Einstein at the moment. Charlie said, "Nah, freaking sick of your hair. I'm gonna give you a haircut." And while I'm at it, I'm gonna bloody put this hair dye in you. So yeah, there you go, fluffy hair. Yeah, everyone's going, is this the same guy? No, it is, but yeah, it's just the hair got done, and yeah. Oh dear. No, I had to go. I had to go to my mother's 90th birthday, so I had to yeah, change the appearance. So she probably might not have recognised me. She's all right. She's switched on and clued up. But yeah. Oh dear me. So anyway, that's probably too much information on too much subjects. Detectors, the coils, coil technology experiments. Coils they're just winds of wire. That's all they are. There's a stack of stuff about coils. Oh, I could get into the geometry of coils and talk about it for hours and hours and hours, but most of it's through practical experiments, and you can do it yourself too. All you need is flexible cable. Just make up 2 coils, 1 receive, 1 transmit, 2 receives, 1 transmit, whatever you want to do. You can even make 2 transmits, 1 receive. You can make 3 transmit. You can just put them all together. There's a heap of stuff you can do, and when you change a coil geometry, it changes how it interacts with targets at size and depth. It's all changes. It's enhancement, and there's stuff that goes out the window as well. But usually there will be an advancement. You come up with something, and if an area's got it's most of the gold's down this deep, and it's all very, very small. Well, a multiple coil situation with a lot of overlap will help that greatly. The more little receive coils you've got, the more receive capture area you have for signal, and ground noise. So maybe you want to do something with, jacking the transmit coil up in the air a bit. It doesn't need much to decouple the coil from the ground, for super saturation. You could probably you could put it up an inch, 25 millimeters an inch, and you'll have massive decoupling from the overriding ground, the massive ground response by energizing a coil close to that mineralized ground. Just experiment. That's all I'm saying. Experiment. There's all sorts of things you can. Not going to go into that. Look, I'm going too far. I'll go too far into it. I'll be here for another hour. So, just play around. There's a coil. There's a coil I come up with a while ago. It's an absolute. This one is really good. I've proved this works really well, and I've never ever put it out in the public domain. Never, ever, ever. There's a coil I designed, all right, and if I say one thing about it, it'll give it away. No, I can't. Maybe someone wants to do a deal with me, and I'll give them the design for it. They can do what they want. Maybe they can come and, I don't know. Maybe I should patent it, and then I could assign the patent to it. Or David will probably want to make it, and he'll probably kill me if I did that. He'll probably go nuts. I don't know. Maybe he's got too much work. We're trying to cut. I'm trying to slow things down a bit. It's just too hectic. And like I say, I'm working on something. You can probably zoom in and maybe see that a little bit, but no one can see the intricate parts, so who cares? Yeah. Do you know, I've got this strange way of thinking. Could you imagine if you can? Okay, you'll go, God, this guy's strange. I shouldn't even say anything, but it's like, I'll try and say it simple. I can visualize things, just visualize it in my head how it goes together, and I can extract this and that. I can do this. It's like a mind manipulation in your own head where I think about it. I can actually build it three-dimensionally in space by thinking about it. It's like having a mind of Lego, sort of, and I can just do geometric patterning, have an understanding of how it works and the way it all goes together, and just come up with concepts. I've just been so busy lately that it's actually clouded that out of my way of thinking. So, it's just, I just look at something and I'll go, oh, that could be massively improved. Or I measure something and I go, oh my God, that could be massively improved. And there's all these things that just come together. Like, I'm not joking. I had a book on, basically a book on inventions, right? And I filled it up so quick, and the stuff just didn't exist. And I started this book probably about, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago. And in that time frame, so much stuff that I've written down has actually come to fruition by other people doing it. It's just amazing. So it's just weird. I thought about that years ago. That years ago, and you see it actually, because you don't do anything with it. Someone else comes across it. I don't know how the universe works like that, but it's just I think just so many humans, someone else is going to think of it, of course. But yeah, it's just amazing. All the different geometries you can do with all the different sensing, generation, coupling, nulling, everything just comes into play. you know, you can look at all this stuff. You know, you could always say to yourself, this staggered height coil design, why wasn't that? Well, you know, why wasn't it out there 10 years ago? Why wasn't it out there 20 years ago? Why wasn't it out there in, you know, 1944? Why wasn't it out there in, you know, 1920s? Because if it hasn't been utilised, no one thought of the concept till recently. There's a heap of concepts that people just haven't thought about. Because I can think of stuff, and then it just does not exist. You know, gee, like, there's one thing I could just go and say, da 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 da, and it would be pylon making this type of coil. It is revolutionary. It has not been done, right? It hasn't been done. And you know, just saying that and thinking about it, I've actually thought of a new way of doing it again. Oh my God. Yeah. Guys, if anyone's serious, I want to look at making a really, oh, Jesus, I better stop because I do. I just start, it just flicks in like this, bang, bang. It's like, if you do that, that happens. That, oh, oh, and that, and it's just like that. It's really, really mad. Uh, so, you know, anyway, I'll leave it there. That's enough waffle. And like I say, everything is just my opinion. It's my opinion. And if it's already patented, well, you know, I didn't say go and build it and contravene people's patents. Not that I know if you can actually patent anything I said, because it's just common sense and common logic, isn't it? It's a natural thing. It's just nature. You can't patent nature. But then again, people don't understand stuff, and it doesn't get. No one even uses it. So, but it's a massive benefit. So, yeah, keep feeding me information on the 8000 if anyone's got any, because at the moment it's a bit dry, but we will have people we know come into possession of an 8000 very shortly. So I might be able to get some really good first-hand information. And the first thing was going to be done is that one-off detector I built, the really, really good one. I basically replaced everything in the detector and did a lot of stuff to it. That's the one that beats the 6000, by the way. It's not a problem doing that. It'll even more so. I've actually refined it more. But the fellow who's going to test it, he's already done tests with it. He's run it in his computer workshop. He reckons it was quiet as. Okay. Yeah, he sent me a video on it too. But he's sending me more videos. He's sending me field videos, right? I'm not there, so I don't know what's coming in. But he said I can upload the videos on this channel so you can all watch it. But what he's organised, he's going to put that detector up against the 8000, right? So we're just going to see how it goes, and we're just going to be using, well, I say he is going to be using, I think he's got Coil Tech coils, just monos and things. So it's, you know, it's not a completely fair test on really mineralized ground. Maybe I can just, you know, I could just build up a staggered coil. Just get the. How about just lift the bloody coil off the ground, right? Put a spacer on it. If you don't want to get swamped with ground signal, just put a spacer on the coil. Make a spacer, 1-inch coil. Actually, anybody out there, if you want, you could make skid plate spacers for all the coils at different heights. Let's talk in imperial for fun. You can make a 1/4 inch, 1/3 of an inch, 1/2 an inch. I wouldn't make them too big because you don't want a bloody spacer that big. But to handle, this is a good idea. right? This is actually completely saleable. If you made spacers up, based it on a skid plate design, and it was stable, you'd probably want to put some plastic webbing in the coil. You know, like to strengthen it, and not add weight or much weight. You don't want to make the coil heavy. Don't make it in solid plastic. And don't make it just a skid plate with depth, because it'll be spongy. But if you put webbing in there that it actually went on and rested against the base of the coil, because take the existing skid plate off, because the base of the coil's flat normally if they're made properly. You know, let it cool in the die properly before you rip it out. You could make a constant height coil using any of the original coils that are kicking around everywhere. So when you go scanning an area with extreme mineralization, you'll get away from that mineral effect, and that high coupling from the ground into from the transmit to the receive coil. It all just goes pear-shaped if it's on really hot ground. So you move it away. But what it does, doing that, gives you constant height, where you can scrub the ground without trying to estimate it doing this. And doing that, your ground measurement coefficient and everything's going out the window. Close, far. I'd say if you're not keeping a steady height, you're going to lose targets. You're not going to hear some of those gold signals. What if the gold signal's coming up and you're moving up or something, and you're moving down, and it's all going pear-shaped? Like I say, this is all for experimentation. I come up with the concepts, and you can go and prove the concept. I'll say, oh, try that. There's all sorts of things you can try. The world is your oyster. Um, you know, and because I've explained this stuff in great detail, you can't patent it now, right? But a thick skid plate, and I've come up with the idea, explain the idea. You can 3D print these. You can injection mold it. So we get rid of the manufacturing concept, which is, oh no, it's done this way, so I'll patent that. No, all you do is making a spacer. It could be foam. It could be polystyrene in a bag, which will scratch the bottom out and will go everywhere and stuff up the environment. But yeah, different size skid plates for different environments is a really good idea. And someone should make a Teflon skid plate, right? Keep the detector really close to the ground, and you can scrub like hell on the Teflon, right? No one's done it. I've never seen a Teflon skid pan. You can do it out of a sheet of Teflon, and all you need to do is cut around the edges, and tape it up so it'll sit on the coil, and just Velcro the damn thing on, and you get a bloody Teflon skid plate. What a great idea. Why has no one done it? Oh, didn't think of doing that. Or if someone did, they've probably just done it privately and never made mention of it. But what a great idea, eh? You can use other hardened plastics. Delron's a really good plastic. I don't know if you can get it in thin sheet though. There's a lot of engineering plastics that are slippery. Nylon. It's not that rugged, but you could use all these exotic engineering plastics if you get them in a sheet. You could probably just use polyethylene or something like that. You make water tanks out of them. They're pretty tough. Make it very, very thin. It will wear, it'll scuff up, but God, it'll last a long time. Much better than PVC. So, yeah. Now, I've got to explain more about it, just in case I haven't mentioned something like the claims. The claims is important. The claim is to space the transmitter coil in a metal detector, be it mono, double D, concentric, or any other configuration, away from heavily mineralized ground, and to reduce the energy absorption, the near field energy absorption into the paramagnetic minerals in that ground matrix. So be it maghemite, magnetite, ironstone, or any other material, even nickel laterite, you'll reduce the coupling coefficient. It won't bark back at you as loud. That's the premise of how it works. That's what it does. So that should destroy anybody trying to paint coil spaces. Okay. Simple, very simple, not hard. And just to make it really clear, we want to get something like this away from my hand is the ground. We want to get this away from my hand, right? So it's not coupling as hard. The ground is my hand. Or, sorry, I'm being pedantic, but I'm doing it for a reason. Here is a tub of mineralized dirt. When this coil here is close to this dirt, the ground has a greater susceptibility to that magnetic field, and it gives back a bigger decay signature and interaction with the rest of any coil geometry and configuration that there is. So if we space this, right, with something like that, we actually gain a net signal to noise ratio improvement where we can pick up gold at greater depth with a little bit of loss in transmit power, a little bit of loss in overall depth, but the you can increase your amplification because you're not getting swamped. You can actually probably bring your receive timing in closer because it's not getting swamped as much. Wow, that's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, so I'm just being a bit pedantic. I'm just, you know, basically I'm shit stirring. Okay, that's what I'm doing. But no, it's completely a feasible thing to do, and that's what they've done in the 8000, in my opinion. Right? They've done that in the 8000, in my opinion. So, like I say, guys, you can experiment. You know, you're allowed to even patents, things that are patented. You are allowed by law, right, to build what is patented using the patented criteria to prove the patent works. You're allowed to do that, one off, right? You can't build it and market it. You can't sell it, right? But you're allowed to prove the concept. Of course you are. Otherwise, why would you publish a patent? You keep it secret when someone did it and say, "Oh no, you've contravened our patent." But no, you tell people what it is. Don't just take a patent at face value and say, "Oh yeah, it's patented, so we'll just believe that." No, don't. I could tell you a story, right? Now, it happened a while ago, but it's true. Someone in a very convoluted way came up and they did this it was done as a joke, but it was written in such a way that they put a patent on air. Not joking. They patented air, right? But just by the explanation of it, of the percentages of how it was, it was special. And don't ask me how it got past the goalkeeper, but yeah, and it was done as a joke, and it was all wiped out and gone. But I think it was some professor at a university in the US did that. A patent. I think someone else tried to patent water or something. This stuff has all crossed my path in the far distant past, and I just thought it was funny that the most weirdest stuff could be patented. You know, I could mention stuff, but I won't. You know, I could also say, you know, once upon a time, someone tried to patent Litz wire. Because of its properties. Interesting. But look, I'm telling you the truth. You're going to go look up the old paint applications. I'm not saying when, but you can go do a research on that if you want. Have a try and look up Litzwire patent. Yeah, there is no Litzwire patent. There was none. There was an application, as far as I know. In my opinion, it's always in my opinion. I don't know for sure. It's just it could have been in a dream I had or something like that. I don't know. You have to do your own research on this stuff. I don't know. But guys, get back into experimenting. And no, I was going to say, if you need Litz wire, you know, I still have 600 kilos of 1 millimeter square, 72 strand, 0.012 mil Litz wire. Perfect for making coils. Beautiful. But yeah, that's that. And we don't sell. Don't say, oh, I want enough Litz wire to make a 13-inch coil or something like that. Don't say that. If we sell Litz wire, you're buying it in bulk. I'm not cut. We're not. It's not. We're not worth our time to cut Litz wire perfectly so you can make a coil, and then stuff it up by winding it too loose or winding it too hard or whatever, and changing the capacitance and changing the resonant frequency and the inductance. If you want Litz wire off us, you're going to buy a reel of it, buy a kilometre of it or something. Don't buy that. You don't. We won't sell it to you. It's a complete waste of our time doing small amounts of Litz wire. It's ridiculous. We'll sell to you a lot cheaper than what you can get it anywhere else, because I bought this stuff 15 years ago when copper was cheaper, right? And I had it all manufactured to spec. So yeah, it's double polyamide on the outside. It's yeah, I can't remember the rest of the spec. I don't have to go back too far, but you know, yeah, it hasn't got rotten varnish on it. You heat it up to about 380 degrees, and you can solder directly to it. It self fluxes. It's really good. Normal Litz wire, if it's got varnish on it, and you got to use a solder pot and that, you got to scrape it all off. And if anything stays on it, won't solder properly, and you get strands that aren't soldered, causes issues. But this stuff, you can just solder pot it, just go, and it just goes flux, done. The end's all done. Every strand is connected at the end. And keep those joins small, because they act as little targets and they re-radiate. Remember that. Even with like I was saying too, if you're making coils for just normal detectors, use small ferrite around every joint, and it will stop the interaction ground to the solder blob to the receive coil and all that retransmission from that. Okay. There was a I'm not going to say there was okay there was some application on something to do with that, with powdered ferrite round joints, but you can just leave it. I mean, that's what they're made for. You can't patent something that's made for doing that, can you? I suppose you could argue that it's made for a metal detector coil, but you know, okay. Well, I've done it before for solenoids and whatever. Anyway, for don't worry, I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, guys, that is 1 hour and 14 minutes of waffle. It is 12 o'clock midday. I hope everyone's got something out of that to go and experiment with. And you can go and see if you can do some proving on my opinions. You know, they're only opinions. That's all they are. Opinions. I don't know. You can't say anything definite. You know, I'll tell you a story, right? If you actually said something about a product, and you said it like it was fact. This is fact, and for some reason, because you haven't got your hands on it and you hadn't examined it, you got it wrong. Um, it will attract legal letters, right? You know, this is your warning. Do not do that again. Da da da. So it's just an opinion, and it's a human right, and um, protected by law to have a opinion. It's a human right. You can have an opinion about anything. It's the point of opinion. Say for instance, right? I wouldn't say this because I don't really know, right? But you know, oh, it's my opinion that this new Nocta detector is going to be better than the GPZ-8000. It's my opinion. I'm allowed to say that if I have a reasonable basis of the thought of why I would say that. But guys, that's complete BS, right? I would never say that as a fact because I don't know. Um, I could just say, well, the GPZ-8000 is going to be the best detector ever made, and it's going to beat the pants off everything, and that's my opinion. And that would be utter total BS as well because I don't know. So opinions are free. You know, opinion. What do they say? Opinions are like AHs because everyone's got one. Okay, you know what an AH is, don't you? Yeah, I'll leave it there. Have a good day. Go find some nuggets. Do some experiments. Make better coils. Make better detectors. Make some spacer plates for your coils. Damn it! I wish I didn't say that now because David's got a heap of 3D printing machines. He could have made them up. Damn. Should have delete that from this video. If 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 a lot of this stuff, hang on, from now, right? 1 hour 17 minutes. If a lot of this stuff, if there's cutouts in the video, you'll know why. Okay, because David didn't want me to say anything about it. Okay, but if he doesn't care less, it'll all be in here. Right? I don't know, because it is what it is. Anyway, I'm going to call him now and say I've got this video. I've discussed this, that, and the other. Do you want me to do something about it and go and put a paint on it, or would you? No, I don't think you could paint it. I really don't, because it's a skid plate. And what's the reasoning of arguing the height of a skid plate? Neither here nor there, is it? Really? I don't know. Oh dear. Interesting. Okay, we'll leave it there. I don't think I went too technical. I think I kept it really, really basic. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Did I say any big words? If I do, tell me off and say don't use big words. Break it down into simple talk to explain that word is probably a good idea. Because I don't want to make these and say, oh, you're freaking, I'm going to talk technical and act like a freaking dick. I think it's better off to explain things in great detail, but keep it simple. Just keep it all simple, so people can then pick up and carry on the research, experimentation, development, or whatever of our hobby. Hobby, is it? Or is it our livelihood? One or the other. Depends what you're doing. But yeah, anyway, God, I've waffled on for too long. This just treat these like podcasts. There's no real show and tell in it because I'm just sitting here talking. I mean, I was, but I'm explaining when I'm showing. So yeah, play it on your car radio when you go on a long drive and just listen to it. Rather than dedicating important parts of your day to watching these or listening to it or whatever. Just run it in the background. I run heaps of people's videos in the background when they're doing a lot of explanation. I just listen to it, and if I do want to know more about it, I'll say, hey Siri, timestamp this video here, and it will just remember it, and I'll look at it later on. So you can do all that, and it's just time management and try and compress things into usable little windows rather than say, oh, hang on, somewhere that video went for an hour and a half. I have to watch the whole thing to find out. No, use your technology, timestamp stuff, and go back to where it was interesting. Anyway, enough yabba. Catch us later.